Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome everyone to today's Explainer. You know, it's pretty wild to think about, but what if the next massive breakthrough in oncology doesn't actually come from a high-tech lab, but from a tree? Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating journey. We're going to start with the broad, macro-level challenges of modern oncology, and then zoom all the way down into the highly specific, microscopic power of natural botanical extracts. We're looking closely at how researchers are turning to nature to find structural solutions to some of medicine's toughest problems, with a huge focus on an incredible African bark called Pygeum. If you are ready to see how complex plant chemistry is fighting cancer on a cellular level, you're in the right place.
Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The limits of chemotherapy. 2. The power of phytochemicals. 3. Pygeum, a prostate protector. 4. How Pygeum fights cancer. And 5. Nature's broader cancer arsenal. Let's get right into it.
All right, Section 1, the limits of chemotherapy. So to really understand why scientists are looking so closely at plant extracts, we have to establish the incredibly high stakes of conventional cancer treatments. Look, the most extensive modes of cancer management today, chemotherapy and radiotherapy, are effective, right? But they often come with really severe off-target toxicities. We're talking hepatotoxicity, which damages the liver, cardiotoxicity hitting the heart, nephrotoxicity in the kidneys, neurotoxicity affecting the nerves, and some pretty intense gastrointestinal issues. These aren't just minor inconveniences. These are critical challenges that frequently drop a patient's quality of life so drastically that it can lead to complete therapy withdrawal. This collateral damage is arguably the primary hurdle in modern oncology today.
There's a quote from our source material that I think perfectly frames this issue. It says, "To address the inadequacies of the present therapy, researchers are still looking for novel potential molecules with anti-cancer activity, with improved efficacy, and reduced side effects. It is an urgent, scientifically documented need." Because of things like cancer relapse, drug resistance, and all that off-target damage we just discussed, the medical community is actively, desperately hunting for new biological solutions.
And that hunt brings us to Section 2. The power of phytochemicals, nature's biological solution.
So what exactly are phytochemicals? Well, by definition, they're structurally varied plant compounds. But honestly, the absolute best way to think about them is as natural scaffolds. It's very much like a complex lock and key system. These molecules are intricately designed by nature to selectively bind to and essentially turn down the functions of key proteins in our bodies. They fit perfectly into specific cellular receptors to trigger very distinct biological responses.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the stark contrast between the chemistry of nature and the chemistry of a lab. Phytochemicals have way more chiral centers and this huge diverse spectrum of ring structures. Because they're so structurally complex, they possess high target selective activity. They are incredibly precise, which severely reduces nonspecific binding, and by extension, those unfavorable side effects. On the flip side, synthetic pharmaceuticals generally have much lower structural complexity, and unfortunately that simplicity leads to higher nonspecific binding, meaning the drug ends up attacking healthy cells right alongside the cancer cells, resulting in those severe off-target toxicities we talked about earlier.
Okay, let's zoom in a bit. Section 3, Pygeum, a serious prostate protector.
We are now looking at a highly specific phytochemical source that is absolutely vital, especially for men over 50. Derived from an African tree bark, Pygeum is frequently paired up with another botanical called saw palmetto. Together, these two are considered some of the absolute most effective natural herbs out there for prostate health. The research shows they act as this incredible frontline defense against benign prostatic hyplasia, or BPH, as well as prostate cancer. They use those complex plant scaffolds we just discussed to slash inflammation and actively inhibit cancer growth, all without causing systemic toxicity.
But how does it actually pull this off? Let's get into Section 4, how Pygeum fights cancer at the cellular level.
If we look closely at the clinical literature in our sources, the specific dosage for Pygeum is crucial. The gold standard recommendation is a high-quality extract standardized to 5% beta-sitosterol. Now, the source recommends 40 milligrams a day for basic prevention. But if you're actively treating BPH or prostate cancer, that number jumps significantly to 120 milligrams daily. And listen, standardization is key here. It's only way to guarantee you're actually getting those precise, complex molecules needed to make a real biological impact.
Let's see how this builds into a three-step cellular defense. Step 1, Pygeum actively lessens the harmful growth-promoting effects of excess IGF, or insulin-like growth factor,
which is heavily linked to cancer progression. Step 2, and this is a beneficial property it shares with saw palmetto, it targets and inhibits the 5-alpha reductase enzyme. This is a massive deal because that enzyme is responsible for converting regular testosterone into DHT, which is a highly active form of testosterone that basically acts as rocket fuel for prostate cancer. Step 3. By shutting off that fuel supply and modulating those cellular pathways, animal studies show Pygeum exerts profound, direct anti-cancer effects right on the tumors themselves. It is literally a targeted multi-angle attack.
And the wild part? Pygeum is really just the tip of the iceberg. That brings us to Section 5, nature's broader cancer arsenal.
This perfectly illustrates the sheer mind-blowing scope of phytochemical research happening today. Let's look at a few examples. First up, gynostema. It's an Asian botanical loaded with gypanocytes that targets breast, lung, prostate, and colon cancers by literally forcing malignant cells to undergo apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. Then you have amla. In lab studies, it reduced existing populations of cervical, ovarian, liver, and colon cancer cells by a massive 50%. And finally, picao preto, a plant straight from the rainforest that tackles leukemia, melanoma, and lung cancer by causing cell cycle arrest. And the kicker here? It shows zero toxicity to healthy cells. It is just such a stark, incredible contrast to the severe side effects of chemotherapy we opened this explainer with.
So here's what this all boils down to. Natural compounds possess an incredible structural complexity that allows for targeted, highly selective action against malignancies. Which leaves us with one final, pretty profound thought to ponder today. With nature already providing these complex, non-toxic biological scaffolds to fight disease, could the true future of oncology be growing right now in the rainforest? It's a massive paradigm shift in how we approach healing, and honestly, the science of phytochemicals is only just beginning to unlock these botanical secrets. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.